Hi loves! Welcome back! It's time for another month of favorite albums to sit through. Today I'm gonna be doing this outside, doing my morning jog, because since this series is already unscripted enough, I might as well just do whatever it takes for me to actually enjoy recording the script and just have fun with it, you know? And also makes me easier for me to point out things as I'm seeing and then relate it to the album that I'm talking about, if you know what I mean. Granted, if people don't pass by and see a crazy girl talking to herself on the phone, so... But yeah, it's the morning. I don't think there's anybody outside doing a jog just like me, so I think that helps. Also, I might be panting halfway through this video, panting, jogging, running, and stuff like that, so yep, gotta see how that turns out. Let's get right into it. Here are my favorite albums of March 2021. Let's get it. I almost cut this one out of the list, but honestly, when looking at the albums to choose from for this month, I couldn't think of another album that really just made me so happy for some reason. So Punch is a name I've heard a lot in my years of K-pop stan experiences. I mostly see her name on OSTs. If you know this OST, the Goblin one, or this one where she did with Hotel de Luna. Yeah, that's her. That is her. I have no idea what she looks like all this time because I've only seen her name on OSTs for some reason. And you know, with OST singers, you can go for years and years without knowing what they look like and you would be living a fine life. But now I know what she looks like, and I have to say, finally I get to put a face to the voice, and honestly, that felt good. It felt good inside. And this is my first time, my first foray into her works that is not OSTs related. So finally, I get to see what she actually does outside of the stuff that she usually does to drive a plot for a drama. I wonder what she does. I wonder what kind of style of music she does. I hope she provides some sort of nuance to it. And I have to say, I had a good time with this album. It's a very standard ballad slash R&B type-ish album, R&B ballad album. But I like it. It really calms me down. Out of the several songs on this album, I did enjoy all but one, which is My Everything. My Everything is a little bit too lulling for my taste. It's a bit too slow, but yeah, I think the rest of the album really held itself up quite nicely. Especially I'm Jealous featuring Kim Min-jae, who acted in Do You Like Brahms, where she did the OST for as well. So yeah, I think that really is nice to have Min-jae featuring on her track as a rapper. So yeah, go check her out if you haven't already. If you guys want to be like, huh, I wonder who is the face behind all the OSTs I liked, then go give this album a listen, please. Now I gotta admit, for the first two tracks of this album, I wasn't sold yet because I was like, that's good and all, but like, where's the meat of this album? Like, it didn't really hit me just yet. But by the time the third track hit me, it really displayed a mirage of soundscapes that I didn't think I would hear in a hip-hop song. All kinds of glitches, all these kinds of really unique soundscapes that really held my attention. And by the end of this album, I was like, hey, not too bad.
Hey, that's pretty good.
I like it. Just like I said in the beginning, the first two songs are my favorite of this album, but the last few songs on this album, after the first two songs, really makes up for it. Really interesting sounding hip-hop with unique soundscapes to pull it all together, and it makes for a really engaging experience in general. And also the skit towards the end really floored me. I can't believe he made a skit talking about how he wants to make money just so he's able to afford chicken nuggets. And I find that hilarious. It reminded me of this Vine for some reason.
Hey, how much money do you have? Like 69 cents.
You know what that means.
I don't have enough money for chicken nugget.
Now, this album, I have to admit that I thought I wasn't gonna like it because it sounded like every other hip-hop album I've heard so far this year, where it's like the same beats over and over again and never really go anywhere else. But I was blown away by this album's release. I had a blast with this. It definitely had some sort of a pop polish to it, but not in a way that it transforms itself into a pop album, but just enough for it to provide character and personality to it. And this album, especially the third act of this album, is especially my favorite. The third act of this album, the last 3 tracks really seal the entire album together. It's fun, I like it. It's a nice little hip-hop listen. You know, it's very vibrant, it's very bright, but it also is very, very sad at the same time. Like beneath the happy exterior, there is a sort of a really gloomy and sad underbelly to it that really adds extra nuance to this album, and it really makes for another engaging hip-hop listen in general. Honestly, I would give this album a listen again someday because I had a good time with it. Also, sorry if I keep pausing it a lot in between. I don't know what to say because I'm currently 1 lap in and I'm very tired. Oh boy, who thinks this is a good idea? Alright, next album, let's go. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. I know what you guys are thinking. Yasmin, don't do it. Don't do it. I dare you to not do it. I had to. This is the first thing I thought of when I heard of the title of this song, the album. I don't know how my mind works. But yeah, I didn't know who He Is Not Korean is. 4 words being mashed into one stage name. But I saw Modern Orange on the track listing, so I was like, huh, I'm gonna give it a shot. I like Modern Orange's last album from last month, so hey, why not give this one a shot? And I had a good time with this. I think it's a very unique chill hop listen, and just like the earlier 2 albums, I really like the soundscape that it offered, and I really like the textures and how different it is from the usual configuration of chill hop. I think that it is also a very good listen if you want to listen to the previous 2 albums that I talked about. I think this is also a really good listen if you want something a little bit more spicy in your chill hop album. So yeah, I like this one a lot actually. The second act of this album isn't technically my favorite. The stronger parts of the album are the first act and the third acts overall. The second act kind of lulls the album's pacing a little bit, but it picks itself right back up in the third act, so good for the album, I guess. The stage name itself is really fun to say. Becausr. I like saying that name for some reason. It sounds really punchy. But yeah, I know I talk about Boy to Man a decent amount on this channel, but this album felt like the even sadder and gloomier version of Boys to Man. Like, whereas Boys to Man is more towards the nighttime, this is sadness in the evening hours leading to nighttime. Like, the sun is setting and night almost comes and you're still feeling in a really sad, gloomy mood, this album feels like it. I think that the ambience of this album really helps in creating a sort of atmosphere for the listeners to immerse into listening, and I really think that you should check it out if you want to listen to the previous 3 albums. I mean, it doesn't have the glitchiness and the beep boops and boop boops of the last 3 hip-hop albums, but if you want something to cry to in the shower, might I recommend this album for you. Seriously. If you want to cry in the shower or cry all night or all evening, I would say this album will be a soundtrack to that. That's all I'm saying. Now, as Seungyeon approaches his upcoming military service, he releases his first solo full-length album as a gift before he goes and does his duties to serve the nation. And I think this is a really good sign-off for him in terms of a full-length album. Of course, he has a lot of room to explore and a lot of stuff that he can talk about and write about. But I think this album also serves really well in the sense that where 2013's Wild and Young is very young and rebellious and rowdy, like he doesn't give a shit about the rest of the world. This album felt like him growing up, and he still has that young spirit inside of him, but he also realizes that there is a responsibility to be held within adulthood that he needs to fulfill in a sense. And I think that really reflects super duper well within this album per se, because he's already nearing his 30s and he's about to go enlist right now. So he has a lot of introspection to go through when it comes to self-reflection of life so far, and I think that really has reflected within the musical aspect of this album. I mean, you have the parts of the album where it's very party-like and upbeat, while the later parts of the album have a kind of more sentimental approach to it. And I think that the pacing of this album really benefited from it, but also the last track on the album though. Well, I was expecting a full-on ballad for this album closure. I think this sort of really upbeat but yet hopeful closure is what this album really needs, to close this album on a very hopeful note, that he has hope inside of him. There is hope within young adulthood itself, and I like that message actually. This is my first dive into anything MC The Max related after hearing of them for like years and years and years. I've seen their name a lot. If there's any name that I see often popping up in the hit song section of South Korea, it definitely be MC The Max. They had multiple hit songs charting within the top 10 and even hitting #1 as soon as they release. They are a really huge damn deal over there, I see. So coming to this album, I was like, okay, what can this band offer that the people in South Korea like so much? So this is my first deep dive into their deep cuts. Their album is my first album I listened from them, and I really like it. I mean, the ballads are sung with the force of 1,000 suns. Whoever's the front man for this group really knows how to sing and emote himself to provide the best emotions for the songs that he's singing in. And I think that it really adds to the experience. Just his voice alone really enhances the entire experience for me, even though a lot of the songs in there are ballads. But they're classical ballads. The ballads are done in a way that it felt like you're in a grand theater and watching a very spectacular opera number. It's really majestic and regal, but also sentimental at the same time. So if you like regal and sentimental ballads, and with very powerful vocal performances, might I add. MC The Max is your go-to, I think. I mean, they are a band, but still, bands are great. We love bands in this house, right? Since debut, Weekly has always made really solid albums. This album, while it didn't really hit me in the same apex as their second mini, which is We Play. Wait, is it called We Play? Yeah, it's called We Play. It didn't really hit me as hard as their We Play album, but I think this is a really solid album in general, and I think Weekly is going to be a girl group that fosters a really solid discography as their career progresses. And I think that's really good for them because they need to have a solid musical foundation. Since they're rookies, they need to establish a very solid musical foundation and identity so that people can distinguish them from the pack and stand out from the rest. And I think that they're really on the right track to do so with a lot of the color pop sounds that really inspire teenage. That's the thing. Weekly is the group for this generation's teenagers. Similar to how Apink, their older sisters, were the heroes of my teenhood back then. I think Weekly is going to be the heroes of the teenhood of this generation, the fourth generation. I'm so jealous of the teenagers who get to look up to Weekly as a source of inspiration and power and comfort, because honestly, they sing songs about themes that teenagers go through. For example, like growing up, having fun, all the things that teenagers go through. Like they sing about being young and carefree and just having fun with life while you're still at it. And I think that's a very cool message to send out to today's teenagers, because yeah, live life to the fullest, kids. Enjoy life while you're still at it. I mean, there's a lot to explore out there, and I think Weekly will be the one to be holding the teenagers' hands and guide them throughout their journey, just like how Apink guided me through my teenhood. And I think that's a very beautiful thing. I know that not everybody in my audience would like this sort of color pop thing, but hey, if color pop was your thing, listen to it. Go hype my girls up. Please go hype my girls up. I love them, and they are really, really good at what they do. And just a bit of a personal note, I think they might be one of my ultimate go groups in the future if I like their discography enough. And I already like them as people, but if they have a discography that I can identify myself in, I think they're going to be one of my ultimate go groups. I don't know, but we'll just have to see, because I love these girls, Weekly girls, so much. And yeah, they own my heart. It's not easy staying this long in this career, especially in the K-pop industry, but Super Junior has a very astounding legacy that a lot of K-pop groups look up to, because they have been active as a group for how long now? 15 years? 16 years? Damn! They really... wow. So their legacy is reflected in this album, which is the Renaissance. Now, this album isn't really as strong as some of their previous works, like Play in 2017 and Mamacita in 2014. I still think that these two albums are still some of their best work to date. But the Renaissance is quite up there though. I really like the thought process behind this album. Now, gotta admit, sometimes Super Junior, what they do is that they experiment a lot with like modern trends of music, and they try to shoehorn it into their core sound. And it's always a hit or miss for me, because I like the adventurous spirit that Super Junior has in their music, even though a lot of the modern trends that they try to do didn't really quite stick the landing for me. But when it works, it really works. Just like in songs like Burn the Floor and title track House Party, which is a kick-ass song, I tell you that much. Especially the trap breakdown section in between. I don't know why, but I like it. It reminded me of this song I listened to back then, the parody of Breaking Bad, where halfway through there's like a rap breakdown.
We're cooking meth, nobody else's glass comes nowhere near.
12 seconds later.
Yo, you gotta take it slow, don't cook your stuff at home, cause all your homies gonna know.
I find that really funny, and that song really harkened back to those like really bizarre YouTube music days for some reason. I don't know why. But also this album has a sort of like a very regal approach to them. Super Junior knows how to do these very suave and classy and regal concepts that if they're serious, that when they're serious in that sort of concept, they knock it out of the park. Their vocals ability is some of the most underrated in K-pop. I've never seen anyone talk about their vocal abilities that much, but their vocal synergy is unmatched, one of the best that K-pop has to offer. So yeah, this album is a blast. I had a good time with it. Very fancy, elegant, expensive, while still telling you to always have a good time and never be afraid to be daring and bold. That's the album that I like.
The next day.
So it is 2 days later and I'm doing this voiceover at night with 100 plus in front of me. Yep, that's the state of my life right now. But get this voiceover done with. Let's go.
We're not stranger, go celebration.
Now, I really like these boys. These boys really know how to make really good title tracks. But in terms of albums, they're yet to find that album that really pairs well with their title tracks in a sense. They almost got it with their debut album, which is Episode 1 Door, where it is a solid album is right there. It's just that it's a little bit too like crowded and noisy, and there's a lot of elements all at once that are just fighting for their attention. So it really left me dizzy in the end, especially the first few songs of the album, minus the title track, because I really like that one. I think it was Reborn and It's Gonna Be Hot, where I like those songs. It's just that there's a lot of songs in there that are just like fighting for attention that it was very hard to catch up on. I do like these songs eventually, it's just that it's really overwhelming. As far as the second album goes, I didn't really remember much from the second album. I thought that it was decent at best, but this album, I think they're on their way with this album because each of the songs complemented each other very well. It flows nicely together, which I really commend them for. It took a while for all the songs to fully click with me in a way, but especially with these two songs, Uno and Hide and Seek. These two songs were my least favorite of the album at first. It took a while for these two songs to grow on me eventually. But yeah, I think this is a very solid effort coming from Ghost 9. And as established from my previous monthly album favorites video, I am a sucker for video game concepts. I absolutely adore it, and I think Ghost 9 are just living in a video game right now. Seriously, their music videos are places that I really want to live in, especially their Wall music video and Soul music video. These are the music videos that I really want to live in someday. Like, goodness, the visuals are just so gorgeous. Wow, I love that. And like the entire Soul music video is just so pleasing to me because it's like part traditional style and then part futuristic style, and then they blend these two elements well in harmony, and that's what I really like about this comeback in general. The entire vibe of Soul reminded me of this video game called No Straight Roads. I don't know if you guys have heard of this game before, where basically these protagonists have to beat the villains to save rock music or something like that. I don't know, but it's a very fun game. And the OST for that kicks ass, I tell you. And also, it's a Malaysian game! Yay! I don't know how many times I've shown my Malaysianness in these videos, but yeah. And also, the thing I like about No Straight Roads is that it's a blend of like the futuristic soundscapes with like a lot of Malaysian traditional elements like dikir barat and the Malay language, which I absolutely really adore. This really harmonious blend of the traditional and futuristic concept is a really good concept. Wonderful job, Ghost 9, and oh boy, this isn't the last you'll hear of me gush over video game concepts.
그렇게 보내는 게 아닌데.
I have not much to say about this album. I think this is also a really nice album, a really nice chill hop listen, as established in the other two favorite album videos. You give me a chill hop album and I'll eat that shit up straight away. No cap, I'll eat that up. One of the things I want to talk about this album is that I had this album playing in the background when I was working, and it made work go along much smoother. And yeah, I think that's what this album does, is it's not much, but it really makes me feel good. You know, I just like this album because it makes me feel good, okay? Okay, now this is a really interesting R&B / chill hop listen, because there's a lot of really interesting retro elements within this album. For example, like jazz, you have your disco, you have funk, and you have like some elements of pop in there that really makes it so engaging listen to. I know about Mind Combined because I think Big Naughty hyped them up in his Instagram stories before, so I went to check them out, and I can see why he really is drawn to them, because they share like the same energy of like just chill hop music with this kind of polished pop production and this kind of really like flares of retro sounds and vibrancy to them. I think that's the reason why that he's drawn to them, and I'm personally drawn to them as well. So if you like vibrant chill hop sounds, definitely go give them a listen. I recommend them a lot. Just like the Kinesi album, I like chill hop shit. So yeah, I don't have to repeat myself. This is a really good album. I didn't have a reason why I like this album. I just like it, okay? And also, I also like cute acoustic stuff, okay? So there you go. That's your cute acoustic album of the month. I also had this album playing during work one day, and it just makes work go along much smoother. I absolutely adore this album to bits. I don't know, I don't have a reason why I like a lot of these like chill hop, cute acoustic songs albums that are just, you know, they don't really have something different or like glitchy or have a sudden beat boop here and there, but like they just make me feel happy, okay? Sometimes I like an album because it makes me feel good. It's just an album that I like from start to finish. I cannot fault that, okay?
We make it high, high. Coming strong, la, la, la.
Hey, this is editing Yasmin here. So I took a look at the voiceover that I made for Mire, and it happened to be 8 minutes long. So I decided to clip that out and save it for another video where I discuss the album and also just about debut albums in general and how they set the tone for K-pop debuts in general. I have so much to talk about Mire's debut, but also just debut albums in general. So yeah, that will be a discussion for another video. Hopefully I can finish it. However, I do want to say that the video probably wouldn't be done until I finish my Kingdom GB as well as the playlist that I was planning to do. So I might do it next month, I believe, which is a shame because I really want to talk about them so badly. But hang in there, you guys. If you guys want to hear my thoughts about Mire, just wait a little longer. I hope to see you guys there. But until then, this album is a bop. Stan Mire, stan the talent. That's all I'm saying. Alright, next album.
I'm a super hot, call me funky winky boy. I'm a super hot, call me funky winky boy.
I wouldn't say say that I didn't like Pentagon's discography because there is a lot of really strong songs within the discography. But in terms of albums, I think they haven't delivered a strong album in a while, at least for me. I think the last strong album they've delivered was Positive back in 2018 with Pinari as their title track. That one is probably their last properly strong album for me. And then the other albums that followed that didn't really like quite hit that mark for me. But this album is really good. It really hits that sort of like a youthful, sort of like high teen concept they're going for. That's sort of like very romantic, almost like funny, goofy, silly, and a little bit of like youthfulness, cheerfulness to it. And yeah, I think they haven't delivered an album this strong since 2018's Positive, and I think 2016's Five Senses. These two albums I regard as some of their strongest to date. And also to some extent Ceremony and Demo 1. I think these two are also quite good as well. But Love or Take is the high teen soundtrack we all need in life. The thing I like about Pentagon is that when they do these kinds of like very youthful concepts, they tend to be kind of self-deprecative in a way. Like in Pinari, Shine, they self-deprecated themselves quite a bit actually, or quite a lot, because they call themselves losers. They're losers in love. They're just regular boys that want to be in love. And I find that relatable, and that really resonates with me because I'm also pretty self-deprecative in nature. So the album resonates with me a bit. It took a while for the album to fully click with me, but when it clicked, it really clicked with me. And each of the tracks on the album really complemented itself from track to track. You have your very bright and upbeat songs like Do or Not, That's Me, which is very quirky and silly, and also the beginning of That's Me is some sort of diegetic music for me. It's like in music terms, it's what we call diegetic, I think, where it sounded like music that you can hear in your surroundings instead of like music that is being dubbed over. We'll talk about non-diegetic and diegetic music when the time comes, but I really like that bit where it seems like one of the members is walking in the middle of the night and he heard like a radio playing in the distance and he went to turn it off. And then there's also a song I really like, Sing a Song, where at the end of the song, I think Hui is the one who turned off the radio and like kind of like does a fourth wall breaking thing, and he's like, oh, it's over? Oh, the song is over? Oh, okay. I find that really cute, that sort of moment that really makes Pentagon such a very charming group for me. The way that they are able to just have fun and they're not shy to let loose and make fun of themselves for a bit, poke fun of themselves. And I think that's the reason why Pentagon is such a very unique group in the K-pop sphere. And it's a shame that they don't get more recognition, because I believe that they're so talented, but they're also able to have so much fun with their music, and I find that really beautiful. So if you haven't checked this album out, I strongly recommend this if you're into like high teen movies or even like just like anime, because this album has a sort of like manhwa anime aesthetic to it. So if you guys are into those, then go check it out, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Buzz is a band that I have heard of for as long as I have been a K-pop stan, but I only have listened to their title tracks here and there because I heard from them due to other K-pop idols hyping them up. So when the time comes that they've released an album, I'm like, oh, it's Buzz. I've heard of them before. Let's check it out. And this is their first album I've actually listened to them, like sat down and properly listened to a Buzz album. And I was blown away by how amazing this album is. The second act of the album definitely is my least favorite of the album. The whole like very like gloomy, like kind of ballady tracks. But the rest of the album really kicks ass. Like this sort of like very power pop, very emotionally driven pop rock music is what really makes me happy, because I grew up on this kind of music. So it really resonates with me. Just like the title track Analog, it is a very powerful album. It has a message to it. I'm not so sure what the message is. I believe it has some sort of message, but because I can't find translations anywhere, I can't tell you exactly what the message is, but there's some sort of like a message in there that's sort of like something they're trying to tell people that we as a society need to get off our phones and stop relying on technology, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. Or maybe this entire album is just saying we live in a society, that Joker meme, you know. I don't know. I'll probably research on my own time if I can find like actual lyrics to each of the songs, and maybe tell you guys what the album talks about, you know. But I think that if you guys are into pop rock or power pop or just emotionally driven music in general, then go give Buzz a listen. I really love the frontman's vocal. I think Min Kyung-hoon is the frontman of the band. I love his voice so much. He has that sort of like emotion to it. He injects a sort of sentiment and sorrow in the songs. Even in more upbeat songs, it really like resonates with me. It really it clicked with me in a way. So yeah, I'll let you guys know what the message is. I think it's some sort of like profound message or whatever, but even then, music is able to transcend language, and I believe that. So and I believe that some of you out there might enjoy this. So if you guys are into power pop or pop rock, then give Buzz a listen, I think. I like them a lot. On the last day of March, Uju Sonyo came through and gave us a masterpiece. We don't deserve them, okay? We as a society don't deserve this girl group. They're so good at what they do. They've done a lot of very twinkly and sparkly synthy concepts throughout their career, but this concept felt different from them in a sense that it's very mature and ladylike and feminine, and it adds a sort of boldness to it, which I don't think Uju Sonyo has tackled before. Maybe they have in B-sides in As You Wish album, but as a concept in a title track and in the album, they have yet to fully realize that. And I think Unnatural fully realizes this concept, this very mature concept. They've all grown up already, and a concept change is inevitable. They need to move on to other concepts to try and experiment a little bit more, and I think they really pulled this off very well. All the members really just look the part in the concept. They look so gorgeous, and the songs are even more gorgeous. They've experimented with more retro concepts like disco and more bolder synth pop music, and I think one of the songs is even a synthwave song. I think it's New Me, that's the synthwave song. I can't remember right now, but yeah, I think New Me is the synthwave song, and good on them for experimenting with more genres. I think Uju Sonyo has done a lot of experimenting with their pop music, which makes their pop music very substantial and very unique from other girl groups. They have done a lot of glitch pop, they have synth pop, very sparkly orchestral music. They have done a lot of concepts and a lot of sounds and genres in their career, and Unnatural is just a solid listen true and true. I need to spend more time in it because, I mean, it just came out, so I need to spend more time in it clearly, but I feel like that this album will be an album that I ended up really enjoying by the end of the year, just like their other albums, especially their 2019 work and also Neverland from 2020. I don't even think that any of Uju Sonyo's future work can ever top Neverland, as it's such a spectacularly made album, but Unnatural is a step in the direction of their concept change, and I really commend them for that. If they were to try and change their concept into a more mature concept, I think this is a very good framework for them to follow as a sort of guideline for them to hone that concept into that direction in the future. So yeah, wonderful job from Cosmic Girls as always. They never disappoint at all. Miss IU. Miss IU. That's it. That's the tweet. She delivered. Like Postman Pat, she delivered. Lilac as an album is pretty strong. I'm not so sure how it ranks from all her other discographies. I still really like Palette a lot. Modern Times also pretty good, and oh my god, Chatshire is impeccable. But Lilac is quite up there in terms of IU discographies because this album has a sort of a pensiveness to it, in a sense that I think that this album is saying goodbye to her youth as she approaches in her 30s, and she's saying goodbye to her 20s and stuff like that. Transitioning from young adulthood to like adulthood is a pretty daunting task. Like I said before in the Chong Se-won album, young adulthood is tough, and I also talked about it in the earlier Kang Seung-yoon album, I believe, where he talks about his youth in a more like a very vibrant way. There's a sort of like a sentiment and sorrowness in IU's album, especially in the more ballad tracks, and as well as Lilac, which is even though it's a city pop upbeat listen, it has a sort of like a sadness to it, and I don't know why, but I almost want to cry when I listen to Lilac. And I really commend IU because she's been going strong for so long, and she still makes quality music since then. She really puts a lot of care in what she does, especially in her penmanship as a lyricist and composer. Her lyrics are really well written. It looks like you're reading some sort of book, like a well written book. It's like reading Pride and Prejudice or A Tale of Two Cities or something like that, like one of those like old Jane Austen books. I used to read some of those books when I was a librarian back in secondary school. Good times. But yeah, it really felt like reading a classic novel in a sense, because her lyrics are so classic. There's a sort of a poetry aspect to her lyrics that is really pleasing to read if you can understand her worldview. And that's what I really like about IU. She's able to immerse us in her worlds in such a very captivating and beautiful language that can resonate with everybody. And I think that's also the reason why she's such a beloved soloist in South Korea. Lilac will probably go down as one of her greatest works to date, bidding goodbye to her youth and just talking about it in a sort of like a very wholesome sense, but also very sentimental at the same time. I think it's also one of those albums that I would listen to as a sort of like a retrospect to my entire young adulthood and teenage days. Just silly old me trying to figure shit out. And now I'm just still figuring shit out. But yeah, IU, man, telling stories to the public and doing it well. Yeah.
Dope lover, you'd say no number, I like your friend.
Speaking of telling stories, here's another artist that is really good at telling stories. I really love the way the entire DPR crew in general tells stories. They really know their storytelling, like seriously. Not only their storytelling reflects in their music video visuals, but it also reflects in the albums. They are one of the few artists I saw where they actually use albums as a storytelling medium. Like DPR Live's Is Anybody Out There album is more of like a musical novel rather than an actual album. No, it's like a musical novel rather than a series of songs, you know what I mean? And Ian definitely delivered something similar to that. Well, it's not as like novel-y in a way like Is Anybody Out There is, and it doesn't have that sort of like a head, body, tail kind of aspect, but all the songs really flow together in the sense that its message about self-doubt and like just overall a self-introspection really shines through the entire album in terms of lyrics, and also the musically also ties well together, especially in like using genres like like R&B and like pop rock flourishes here and there, that kind of stuff. I really have a lot to talk about this album. I probably will make a separate video about this in the future alongside DPR Live's album. I think that they deserve a separate video talking about their storytelling, their worldview, how they see the world, and also like storytelling albums in general. I really want to make videos on those, so yeah, I will just save the rambling to that other time. But yeah, in terms of this specific album, I say that this is a very good introduction to the world as Ian, because yeah, he hasn't been making music for a long time, and suddenly he just dropped his own solo work. It makes me feel happy, you know, because I've been following him for like a very long time. Like I think almost a decade ago, I've been following him since his like C Clown days, I believe, and man, time flies. If I were to tell my 14-year-old self that this dude from C Clown is gonna make the best goddamn album of her life, she will tell me, huh? Why? What? Like, she would look at me in disbelief, because at the time, 14-year-old me didn't really listen to a lot of K-pop albums. I mostly listened to like C-pop stuff and English stuff, Western stuff, I believe. I don't really listen to K-pop albums that much at the time. But yeah, she would probably just look at me in confusion and shake her head at me. Shame on you, 14-year-old Yasmin. But yeah, it really has been so touching to see how far he has come from those days, and me a decade later sitting down and getting to enjoy this album is such a very satisfying experience to me, and I couldn't be happier for him. The way that he's able to freely tell his stories to the rest of the world, and just in his own way as well, in own personal worldview, I think that's a very beautiful sight to see. And yeah, I can't wait to talk more about his album as well as lots of other storytelling albums in a video in the future, so I'll see you guys there. But until then, check this guy out. He is amazing. If I were to say my #1 album of the month, this is no doubt my #1, hands down. I couldn't think of a better album in March that came out other than Flower 9 by MC Mong. It's so good! Damn! The thing I like about Flower 9 is that it's so nostalgic. Like, it sounded like the hip-hop ballads that I used to listen to back at the start of my K-pop standing career. Like, if you are into... Let me tell you this to all my fellow second-gen stans in the audience, but if you guys are into Isang or any like hip-hop ballad that's ever dominated the second gen at the time, this album is like a trip down memory lane. It's so good. And yeah, one might argue that this sounds pretty dated for like modern K-pop, but like, I mean, nostalgia, man. And I mean, it sounds good as well. Like, all the songs on the album are just so... It makes me feel so... It makes me feel a certain way. Like, it makes me feel sad, makes me feel pensive, makes me feel gloomy, but also it makes me feel nostalgic for those good old days where this kind of music just dominated the scene, you know what I mean? I like the collaborators he chose for this album. All the collaborators he chose are such really great vocalists, and they are good additions to the album, especially Shin Young-jae on Meiosis. His voice, this man can sing, my goodness. I have yet to check out his solo album from 2020. I repeatedly forgotten to check out his album last year, but I will soon. I probably will soon, because honestly, between him and his work in Vibe and 2F, I really adore his voice so much. He's one of like the top tier vocalists in Korean music in general, I believe. And then also you have Jo Hyuna from Urban Zakapa, who's on the album. Then you have Chancellor, The Arc, Kim Sejong, who also released an album in March, and also Kim Jae-hwan, who was on the acoustic piano version of Cold, which was a kick-ass song from last year. Y'all should check it out. And yeah, all these vocalists really add something new and fresh to this album. And yeah, they really work well in synergy alongside MC Mong's rapping to create a sort of a blend of just beautiful sounds that make you feel nostalgic. And yeah, one of the songs on the album is not my favorite. Until now, I couldn't click with it. I think it's the second track, Nuni Morota or Blind. I couldn't click with it for life of me, but I'm willing to ignore that because the rest of the album really is very, very strong. I absolutely love it. I couldn't sing higher praises for it. It's so good. And also one of the tracks on the album is a remake of, I think it's Davichi's Turtle. But I don't know if the Davichi's Turtle is also a remake of an older song. So let me know about that because I couldn't find information on that anywhere. But I think that it's a remake of Davichi's Turtle. Or if it's not by Davichi, it must be someone else from like earlier back in the old days or something like that. Please let me know. I need that information, please. But yeah, as soon as I heard that song, nostalgia, man, nostalgia. Wow. So yeah, I love this album for a lot of personal reasons, nostalgic reasons. I mean, it's not the most innovative album out there. It's certainly not the most like trendy album or like the most current album in terms of modern K-pop. But as someone who is a second gen baby, as someone who got into K-pop in the second gen, I couldn't have think of a better album that really reminded me of those good old days. I think this might also end up being in my top 10 favorites by the end of the year. Maybe even top 5, I'm not so sure, but I believe this album might have its staying power, and I really think that it will stay as a favorite of mine for a long time. I listened to this album a lot in March. I believe I listened to this album the most in all of March. I put this album on every time I work or just casually lying on my bed, just looking at the ceiling and just thinking about life and stuff like that, and just hearing these really nostalgic songs and sentimental sounds really makes me feel a certain way. And yeah, it's just really amazing to me, you know, that sort of nostalgia, that sort of like yearning at the past, you know. Good times, man, good times. And that is why this album is my favorite of March 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Yeah, it was a long time since I made a new video, huh? Yeah, because March is the month that is really a busy month for me in terms of internships. There's a lot of stuff going on at work and it was really hectic. I get super tired by the end of the day, and it makes me tired and not want to edit videos. But yeah, I'm still in this transitioning phase in my internship. I'm trying to adjust to it, but yeah, I'm trying my best right now. Some of the videos are in the works right now, by the way. The Kingdom genre breakdown that I'm almost finishing researching. I think there's only B2B solo material that I need to research as of now. So hopefully I can get started on script writing and analyzing the data and stuff like that, and making all these videos and stuff like that. Hopefully I can try and make that soon, so please wait a little longer. And yeah, sorry for the wait. I know all of you guys are waiting for Kingdom genre breakdown for a while now, especially since Kingdom has just begun. So yeah, I'll try my best to finish it soon. And also I have several video ideas in the works, including a playlist as well as a potential new series that will be me discussing about certain albums and stuff like that, because it's a passion that I really wanted to talk about with you guys, to be able to discuss about albums and how they tell stories and how they work and how they flow well and how they make people feel a certain way. Yeah, these kinds of discussions are stuff that I really want to have plenty of with you guys, and yeah, I'm very excited for those, and as well as lots of cool videos to come, so hope you guys stick around. And yeah, what are your favorite albums of the month? Let me know. What are your favorite releases of the month? Let me know. I hope to see you guys soon. Until then, stay safe, take care, and as always, be excellent to each other. Bye, loves.